a physics student walks down a long hall carrying a vibrating fork, which vibrates 468 hertz tuning fork. The end of the hall is closer, so the sound reflects from it. The students hear 6 beats per second. How fast is the student walking? Assume that the velocity of sound is 340. Okay, so here we have two scenario. Okay, in the first scenario, let me write it down. Scenario one. Okay, scenario one. Okay, scenario one. In the scenario one, what we have, the sound is propagating, okay, in this way. And what happens is that in this case, in the first scenario, the wall becomes observer frequency, okay. Then we have a general formula where frequency of the observer is equal to the frequency of the source, V plus minus V observer divided V plus minus V source. Now, depending on the situation, this plus minus can be changed. Now, in the first case, the speed of the observer at the wall is basically is equal to 0, right? So therefore, in this first scenario, this becomes 0. The force, the frequency of the source is 468. Let's for now keep it as a V divided V. Now, since the source is moving towards the observer, then V will be minus V of the source, okay. So for now we have this first scenario equation, and the second scenario, well, we have scenario 2, the student. Now here we have a wall. Now in the second scenario, the wave propagates back, okay, it reflects. So in this case, the wall becomes a source, okay, or let me call it, okay, becomes a source. Then the speed of the source is 0. Now the student is still moving to V observer, okay, the student is moving towards the wall. In this case, now let's write down the equation. The frequency of the observer, okay, or let me call it this one as frequency 2, okay. Frequency of observer or frequency 2 or frequency of reflector, okay, just a moment. Reflector is equal to the general formula, which is frequency of the source, V plus minus V observer, V plus minus V source. Now V source, since it's stationary, is 0, then it turns out with a V source, V. Now the source is stationary, right? And then observer moving towards the source, observer moving towards the source, so that means V plus V. Now it's a observer, so observer in our case is the speed of the person, okay. Okay, now where we are now. So finally, what we got that frequency of the reflector, or frequency 2, is equal to the frequency of the source, V divided V plus V source, okay. Now the source means the speed of the person. Now, since in the second scenario, V frequency of observer becomes a source, okay. So what you do is that you take this one and you bring it and plug it here, okay. Then since we have a bit frequency which is 6, that means in the formula, which is a bit frequency is equal to the reflected frequency, which is that one, minus frequency of the source, which is in our case is equal 468. Okay, so that's it. So from there you have to find what will be the speed of the student. Okay, that's it.